Alright guys, sorry getting everything set up here. Sorry for the shaky cam. We're about to get underway on YouTube. I'm gonna get live started on TikTok or Instagram, not sure which I'm doing yet. But we're gonna get started here in just a second. Anyone, looks like 5's in the chat. Anyone wanna pop a message up, make sure you can hear me, all that, make sure everything's good before we get started. Sorry about bumping the camera there. My tripod is not that secure. Anybody hear me? I see 5 people in the chat. Give me a thumbs up or give us a chat, live message. Just let me know if you can hear me. Video is coming through all right. 9 people got a thumbs up. We hear you. Great. Thank you. So this is the first time doing a timing belt in the van. It's a little bit different than the truck, just because there's not as much accessibility. With the truck, you've got the bed and the bed sides. With the van, you've got a full body in the way, so you really can't do anything with that. So getting around that is kind of a pain, but we'll get it knocked out. And the cooling system is a little bit different on the van too. On the truck, the radiator neck and cap are accessible under the passenger front seat. It is not so on the van. The van has the pressure cap in the crease of the hatch, which is very weird, but that's the way it is. And there's a couple of more air pocket drains. There's lines with caps to drain when you're refilling the coolant system. On the truck, you've basically got just the one on the top of the engine, so it's not as bad. But the van is a little bit different to put the coolant in. Might use the vacuum refiller just to make it a little bit easier on me, but we will see when we get to that part. Let me just get the other live started and we will get to it. What in the world is with this auto tech? Sambar timing belt. I've never done a live on this other platform, so I'm not exactly sure how this goes. So get it started up here, and I'll try to get my tripod set. And like I said, we'll get started here. I guess that is good enough. So, all right, we've got the alternator loosened up. This is an air-conditioned equipped van. Cool thing about the 1997 is it's fuel injected, no more carburetors to deal with, so it does run a lot better. So I will definitely be looking for a newer body style or newer year model when I get my next Sambar. No supercharger on this one. It's just air-conditioned, and looks like this live stream thing is not going to work on my other phone. I don't have enough Wi-Fi band or whatever, but the heck with it. We will get through it and just get started with the job over here on YouTube. You guys are probably more apt for it anyway. So let's go ahead and get the crank bolt out of the way. We've got the coolant drain. We've got the drain pan up here. There's that 12mm headed bolt on the bottom of the water pump to drain the coolant. Set this all to the side and start working on that timing belt cover. If I can find my nut driver. I need to take that dipstick tube out of the way. Looks like we've got some oil leakage from the cam seal over here. Just looking at the oil on the bottom of the timing belt cover. It's gonna be a pain to get around this thing just because it's different configuration than the truck. Let's see if adding a little limp. Yep, gets us in there. We can get that dipstick tube out of the way. We got to get it out of there anyway for the top 2 water pump bolts. Now this is a very low kilometer truck. I think it's like 35,000 kilometers. So hopefully the water pump will not be as stuck to the block. That's always the pain on these trucks, is getting that water pump unstuck. But it's still 25 years old, so time is one of the big things with that, more so than mileage. But at least it doesn't have as many heat cycles on it, being the mileage is low across that time. Now I do apologize, guys, in advance. You leaving messages in the chat, I'm not going to be able to really look at the chat while I'm doing this job, unfortunately. So it's kind of a hang out and watch me work kind of deal. But I'll try to do another live stream Q&A here soon, where you can get those questions in. So we've got our timing belt bolts off now. Get our cover out of the way. Luckily our seal is not screwed up. We've got a little bit of oil accumulation right here and right here, but it didn't swell the seal. It's still in its groove, so we'll be fine to reuse that, and just need to clean up that cover. Oh, we got a lot of buildup on this timing belt tensioner for some weird reason, and looks like we've got some corrosion down here. Looks like some coolant's been leaking on this water pump. So even though it's low mileage, don't say that it's good, because we can see a little stream of dried coolant here. Once I get that pulled off, I will get it up closer to the camera so you can see it. But right now we need to put the engine in time, or line our timing marks up. So should be able to spin it over by hand. That's the good thing about these little engines, is we can really manhandle them, because they're only 658 cc. So there's not a whole lot of compression you're turning against on this because of how small it is. Basically a glorified motorcycle engine. I'll turn that back, and on the money there. And we're on the money up here at our camshaft and our mark there. Let's go ahead and get that belt knocked off of there. Get a ratchet. Or maybe not. I didn't bring one out here. Let's see if I can do this without filleting my knuckles. I don't want to jinx it myself. Let me go grab a ratchet real quick. Can't believe I didn't bring one out. Well, I've got an impact. But impact ain't gonna reach that. Yeah, that's not gonna work. I know that's gonna slip and I'm gonna hurt myself. I got stuff spread out all over already. And the ratchet barely fits in there. And that thing was kind of abnormally tight. But there we go. Go ahead and push that up. Tighten it back down. Should have grabbed a pry bar, because I know I'm gonna need two of them to wrestle that water pump off of those dowel pins. we go. Got the old timing belt. Now this is again getting replaced for age, not mileage, because again we've only got like 35,000 kilometers on the clock. So belt's out of the way. Get the tensioner out of the way. And we grab our little spring out of there. And got it. Pull our crank cog off. We're gonna need to get that crank sensor, or the crank seal, not the crank sensor. What am I talking about? We gotta get that camshaft pulley out of there. So get to that here in a second. I'll try one more time to get my other live started and see if it'll work, but I got a feeling it is not going to. I don't think my Wi-Fi out here is strong enough to stream with, but we'll see. We shall see. All right, let's go ahead and try to tackle that water pump. Looks like these water pump side seals are going to be okay. They don't look like they're too swollen or screwy, but we do have brand new ones in case we need them. So we'll just pull the rest of them out when we pull the water pump out. And again, I'm going to have to go grab at least 2 pry bars to try to fight this thing out of here because they're always hard to come off. And as always, the 2 longer bolts go to the top on these water pumps. Looks like my TikTok live stream finally is going to stay up. We'll see how long it stays up for. Just because, again, I don't know how strong my Wi-Fi is. But, where to put the ratchet? I literally just had it in my hand. There it is. I had to get a longer socket for that. This customer came all the way down from Raleigh, North Carolina to bring me this van. It's about a 3-hour drive one way, so quite a ways, but that's the thing with these little Sambars. There's not many people in the US that will even work on them, much less can get the parts for them. It's not that they're hard to get the parts for them, but a lot of people are just hesitant, I think, to order parts from Japan directly and ship them over. I don't know. I mean, 2024, the internet and online commerce is pretty simple nowadays, so it's not that big of a deal to order the components. I do have to do a rear main seal on this truck because it does have quite a good oil leak going, but they are on back order even in Japan. So last I heard from Subaru, it'd probably be late June, early July before I can get that rear main seal in. And for you Sambar owners in the US, the EN07 here in the Sambars shares the exact same rear main seal as the EF12 engine, the 3-cylinder engine that came in the Subaru Justy. So you can go to a US Subaru dealership and order the rear main seal and the 2 side seals for the main bearing cap. But as I said, I checked with my local Subaru dealership in Charlotte, and they are on national back order. And then when I went to Amayama and JapanParts.com, they both showed that even in Japan, no one had them in stock. The only place that had them in stock was, I believe, a warehouse in Saudi Arabia, Dubai. They had 1 rear main seal and 1 of the side seals, but you've got 1 on either side, of course. So you need 2 side seals and 1 rear main seal for each job. So I believe I ordered 8 rear main seals and 16 side seals, just so I've got a ton of them on hand for future repairs. So I'm gonna grab the pry bar so I can start fighting the water pump. There's two little steel alignment pins. They always hang up on. There's one up here and one down here. And the aluminum seizes up to that steel, and it makes it really hard to get these little water pumps off of here. But once we do that, get the water pump off, we'll get this cam pulley off and the rear timing cover, pull that cam seal and pull the crank seal and start putting this thing back together. We do have to do a rocker cover gasket on it as well. Just bought out Amazon Japan, so sorry anyone that needed a rocker cover gasket for an EN07. I bought like I think 8 of them and wiped out the stock from Amazon Japan. But we'll have that all figured out and should be good for the customer to come pick this car up Friday or Saturday, and then they're just going to bring it back in June, July, whenever those rear main seals show up, and we'll drop the transmission out and do the rear main seal on it, and he should be good to go then, because again, this is a very low kilometer engine, low kilometer van, so not a bunch of issues with it. So I'm gonna go grab the pry bars real quick and come back and we'll fight that water pump. Hopefully it comes off without much muss or fuss. All right, apologies to you on TikTok. You're not getting the greatest camera angle of this. The YouTube live stream has a more direct shot. Of course, this being vertical instead of landscape. But tried to start this live stream a lot earlier when I was first pulling this down, but my Wi-Fi was being buggy or something. So there's the engine gasket kit, come with the rear main seal. With a regular Subaru engine, US market Subaru engines like an EJ series or F series engine, yes, they do come with the rear main seal. But as far as I know, the EN07 that is in this Sambar van, it's in the K truck, the 658cc inline 4. I don't know of a master overhaul kit or seal kit for these like Subaru offers for the full-size engines. So I've got the, you don't get as great a pry. There's a tab up here you can normally pry on, but the way they've redesigned the alternator and AC compressor bracket on the 97, looks like you got to get behind this little corner back here, and there's not really a good place to pry right here. Might have to go ahead and pop this rear timing cover off and the cam sprocket so I can pry against the cylinder head here. I think that's what I normally do. It's just been several months since I've done one of these. So yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll go ahead and pop that cam sprocket off and that rear timing cover so we can get in there better. We do have a bad engine mount over here too. This is one of the ones that still use that flat pancake gasket that's notorious for tearing. I don't know why they designed it that way, because it's got a lot of shear load on it just from holding up the weight of the engine over here. So it does tend to delaminate, separate the rubber pulls away from the metal. And they redesigned it later on in, I believe, 2000s on the Sambar, where it is a round bushing, kind of like this one here. But the one that's on this truck is that little pancake bushing, and it is a pain in the butt to replace, because you basically got to take everything loose and pry the engine completely over, and it's just a pain in the butt. We also got an exhaust manifold gasket here we got to put on this truck at some point. We'll wait till we pull the transmission out, doing that rear main seal, and we'll do that then, because we got to take the exhaust loose anyway. don't know what I'm looking for parts for. I gotta be taking this freaking timing cover off. I'm getting sidetracked. Where did my impact go? There it is. So, where did my tin go? That's the joke, right? 10mm sockets. There they are. So, get this rear timing cover off. Quite a bit of oil here. This cam seal has probably been leaking. If not, it is from the leaking rocker cover gasket. It's probably run down the side over here as well. There's a lot of oil at the rocker cover gasket, but you'll see here in a second. We pop this off, and yeah, we got some oil right here, so cam seal probably was leaking. We can get these two little side seals out. I think they're good to reuse. They're not really swollen or oil contaminated. But yep, now we got that out of the way. We should be able to pry this water pump off fairly easily. Oh yeah, this is a lot easier than one with 100,000 kilometers or so. That thing came off of that upper pin fairly easily. Just kind of work it back and forth so you don't break anything. Sorry TikTok, I just kicked you. And sorry YouTube, I just kicked you. All right, let's get her to come off of those pins. The worst one is that one at the bottom, because as you see on this water pump, we do have a line of coolant. This thing has been leaking even as low mileage as it is. And it's still 25 years old, being a 97 model. So a lot of times it's not the mileage that kills your vehicle, it's just the time these things fail. So, see if we can get this thing to wiggle up off of that bottom dowel. Always the longest and most difficult part of timing belt jobs on these freaking engines is getting the water pump off and then getting it back on, because the gasket's a molded gasket and there's not really a great detent on the back to hold that gasket in place, and trying to place it in there without it rolling or coming out of that groove or getting pinched, it's kind of a pain sometimes too. So let's see if I can get the other pry bar in here. Sometimes you gotta wiggle it back and forth at opposite angles. There we go, that'll get it. Yeah. Oh yeah, this one's easy. This one's easy. A lot of times those dowels get so seized in there, the dowels will pull out of the block and get stuck in the water pump and come out of the block or the head, and or just the block, not the head. Let's see. There we go. Not too bad. I fought these things for hours before. That one was pretty good. But yeah, there's some big time crud in there. Look at that, guys. Show you on YouTube all that corrosion and stuff right there around the screw heads. And this is weird on the EN07 as well. This is an oil passage right down here. So you have engine oil coming up to the bottom of the water pump. And I believe that they're on the supercharged engines. I believe there's a tap here or a tap here somewhere. And that taps into an oil cooler that's mounted on the base of the oil filter, kind of like the WRX, the turbocharged EJ series, F series engines, where you've got the standoff for the oil cooler and then the oil filter goes on top of that. So now we got this old water pump out of the way and the old gasket. We'll start cleaning up all this mess and pull the cam and crank seals and get those replaced. We do got some deposits in here. They probably weren't servicing this cooling system like they should have, or possibly didn't ever service at all. So get to work on that. Luckily, this the EN07 has a iron block instead of an aluminum block, so you can get a little more aggressive scraping against it, cleaning it up, than you would an EJ series or an F series engine with their aluminum block. So you don't have to be too terribly easy on it. We're just getting enough of this scale and crap knocked down where that new gasket will seal up just fine. So knock down some of the big humps with this, and then we'll come in with the bristle disc on the die grinder and smooth the rest of it out. Luckily there's not a ton of buildup on here. Again, low kilometer. So again, it's 25 years old, but there's not been a ton of heat cycles on this engine just because of how little it was driven. So get this the rest of the way cleaned up and dig through my box of parts. I do have new rear shock absorbers to put on this van, brought to me by the customer. They did buy the Japanese or the Subaru genuines from Japan and imported them. Can't remember if they used Amiyama or if they used Japan parts, but they did bring me Subaru genuines, which they're very spendy. Last time I priced them out for my last Sambar truck, I think they were like $200, which I think is insane for the shock absorber that's literally like this long and like this big around on these little vehicles. But I'm assuming it's a lot worse in the van when you have a shock absorber this bad than in the truck, just because you got so much more weight over the rear axle. I mean, much less it being rear engine, but having the whole structure of the van back there instead of a flat pickup bed. Get some of this junk cleaned up around the front of the oil pump. Do need to go through and clean those timing belt covers and get those prepped and ready here in a minute. One thing at a time. And as soon as I get this done, I got a Ford Escape with a blown AC condenser. And that ought to be pretty quick and easy. Just had a little pinhole leak in it. It's a weird one though. They use the AC condenser for the transmission cooler instead of the radiator, so I deal with some transmission fluid instead of just two AC lines, and getting it in and out of there. I know someone, I can't remember if it was YouTube or TikTok or where, asked about head gasket issues on these EN07s, and they do not have head gasket issues. The head gasket issues were only on the 2.5 liter EJs, naturally aspirated. Woo, there's a little bit of coolant left in there. We've been churried that right out of there. Maybe you don't know about these white 3M bristle disc. These are what Subaru recommends for cleaning up their engine block, being aluminum, because they don't dig in like a regular Scotch-Brite roll-aught. So even though this is a steel block, I like to use these just because they're not as aggressive, so I don't have to worry about gouging or digging in if I get at an awkward angle or whatnot. These do not drain the coolant as easily as the truck. Like I said at the beginning of the live, they got the radiator cap and everything is up here in the hatch, in the jamb of the hatch instead of under the seat. You don't get the radiator cap directly on the radiator under the cab. It's a remote system in the van. Yeah, we do got some pitting already on this block. You can see where the old molded gasket sat. I've noticed that on basically every EN07 I've worked on, that little molded gasket seems to eat in to the engine block, even though it's an iron block. Got a lot to do with people not servicing their cooling system like they should, I'm sure. Should have put my little 1-inch bristle disc on here to get into some of these areas, because it's a little bit hard to get this big bulky die grinder in around this engine. But we basically got it cleaned up now. It did sling a ton of coolant though. But we'll be doing an oil change on this too as soon as we're done with the head gasket and the rocker cover gasket. They brought they requested an oil change. I've got a Subaru genuine black Tokyo Roki filter to put on there, so we're gonna get rid of this Pro Performance Napa. Not sure how long they've kind of bristle disc they're using. That's a 3M bristle disc. It's the white. They if I remember right, they've got 3 different colors. They've got white, green, and yellow. And white is the least abrasive. I think yellow is the medium, and I think green is the most abrasive grit on them. So it's just little plastic fingers. They're meant to remove material, gasket material, all that kind of stuff without digging in on like aluminum and stuff, even though this is again steel. I might go grab just a regular roll lock here in a minute just to shine this up. I've gotten a little more confident using them on these. I'm just so scared of using them just because most Subarus having the aluminum block and not wanting to eat into it and cause a sealing issue. But we're basically there. Just need to find my new water pump and gasket. I've got it in the big box of parts over here. So yeah, let's see. Just manually scrub a little bit with the brush. So this is pretty flat. It's not grabbing a lip or anything. All right, we're pretty good there. Yeah, Scotch-Brite does work good on aluminum to eat right into it. If you're brave enough to use the Scotch-Brite roll locks on aluminum, you got to be very fast and very light with your pressure. So I'm gonna grab that Scotch-Brite pad real quick and give it one little shot. But again, I've seen them a lot rougher than this. I've seen them with a lot more pitting along that edge where that gasket's rode, and they haven't leaked on me. And not too worried about it. This is a little bit. There's quite a bit of freaking corrosion there. That's the trick with this thing. It's great, but sometimes you got to get very creative with the angle of attack to reach something. I do wish Milwaukee could make this a little smaller, but there's only so much you can do with the electronics and all that, you know, you've got certain components that you can't make any smaller and can't fit into a smaller case. I totally understand the confines of the medium being an electric die grinder, but it would be nice if they could get them a little bit smaller. So that's all good. I'm gonna get the cam and crank seals out of there. Again, I don't think our crank seal was ever leaking, but there's definitely buildup on the bottom of this cam seal where it had been leaking. just realized that I forgot to grab my seal installers. I need to start marking these things with which is which. I'm bad about just lining them up to the seal every time instead of just writing. This is the crank seal for an EN07 or the cam seal for an EN07 or cranker cam for an EJ or what have you. See how easily this will pop out of here. Looks like someone's already tried to put a rocker cover gasket on this truck before, because it looks like there's a little bit of gold RTV sticking out of there on the side, which these should have gray RTV from the factory. So definitely looks like someone was in there and changed that gasket before, and unfortunately it's still leaking on it. That cam seal came out really easily for us. So let's take a look at it. So again, a lot of these seals don't fail straight from mileage. It's from the age, and this one is very hard and very brittle, and as I'm moving this inside seal, it's cracking and giving way, and you can see where it was a little bit deformed, although that might be where I stuck my tool in. That's probably where I stuck my seal puller in, but yeah, it done got hard and brittle and started leaking. So need to grab our new one out, clean this bore, and drive our new one in, figure out which install tool fits it. I need to go grab my oil can, so I put a little bit of oil on the inner lip when I go install it. Let's see, there's the cam seal. And cam seal is Subaru 8067 38200. I almost should stock up on these jokers. I'm running out of my Sambar parts. The customer, I told him instead of charging him parts and labor, I just charge him labor on this if he went through and ordered a whole set of genuine parts and ordered them from Subaru and brought them to me, or from Japan, and I brought them to me. So he's gonna be bringing me all the parts for this. We just swap out, that way I always have a set on hand for the next Sambar that shows up. So got the oil can, got a nice little slathering of fresh oil around the inside lip of the new seal. Pretty sure I've got my right seal driver for this. TikTok, sorry, I don't think you can see the camshaft from your camera angle. We'll line it up on the cam, get it square, and grab our mallet, and I'm pretty sure this is the one that correlates to the cam, and it is. And we'll go ahead and drive that seal in. And pretty much got it in there flat and flush. More hits at the top. And say that is good. Go ahead and get that crank seal working. Which one is the crank seal installer? Is it this one? Let that go with the cam. Thought I had one that was stubbier and went closer to the cam, but I think all I use is that one. Give it a couple more taps here at the top. It looks a little bit proud at the top. Problem with this is you don't have any room to swing a hammer because the frame, the outer edge of the frame is right in line with this cam. So you don't have much room. You got to kind of turn the head of your hammer sideways to tap it. But yeah, I'm gonna call that good. That is filling same depth all the way around, nice and square. Lip is not rolled, so call that good. Let's go ahead and get the crank seal. Sometimes they're a pain to get out of there just because of how small they are and how the lip is around that oil pump. So let's see if we can pop it off of there without doing any kind of damage. I've had this seal puller forever. This is a Lyle seal puller, but I bought it off the Matco truck. And probably 2010 or 2009 or so, and somehow I've gotten away with only breaking one tip on these. They normally come with one spare, and I broke one of them off years ago, but this one has been a good one for a very long time. And if I can remember which way I try to attack these, because we got all this crap in the way over here, kind of awkward to get at. And of course my little pusher helper just sliding all the way down. These seals are normally so easy to get out. You normally don't need that little stand to push off from. That cam seal came out super easy, but these crank seals are normally, and they're very taut. And it's gonna be a pain. Of course, I'm right in line with the freaking coil spring over here trying to push this handle. See, that's the bad thing. Ow. That's the bad thing about these. Their lip is so tiny, you don't have much meat to grab onto. And they just get in there so freaking tight. So you gotta be careful because you don't want to scratch that crankshaft, because then no matter what you do, it's gonna leak oil. Better to take your time rather than get frustrated and do something stupid and end up scratching the crank. See how this looks to deform instead of grabbing and coming. Sometimes I gotta work around the outer edge of these things and grab them in multiple spots to get them to loosen up enough to come out. Let's see if we can get it down here. The bad thing is just trying to get it to press in past that lip, because it gets so old and brittle and it just doesn't want to get in there. I'm going to take this coolant drain pan out of here. I'm draining the water pump, and that coolant does not look great. It's really dark and dingy. This thing probably was not serviced like it should have been. Not going to be easy today. The water pump was too easy. So of course the crank seal is going to be a pain, and I'm probably going to bust a knuckle here trying to get this stupid thing out. Busted this side out of the seal again. That's the way these things are. They don't always want to cooperate. If we got any kind of bite on it here. Just pull them back out. I swear. Some days you win and some days you lose. bite there. It's already deformed the seal right there. Pulled quite a few pulls on this side. Loosen up, pop on out of there. You had a good run. Nope. There's a trick I've seen and used several times in the past on cam seals and crank seals, where you can take like a little tiny self tapper and screw it in the outer edge here, and then take a pair of pliers on a slide hammer and pop them right out of there. But that's just the aggravating thing about these crank seals on this engine. It's, you know, being only a 658cc engine, it's basically a motorcycle engine. It's just, that thing is so freaking tiny, and there's not much of a lip on it to grab a hold of, and it just becomes a pain in the ass, especially as old as these trucks are all now. They're being imported to the US. They just get brittle and crap out and don't want to come. Well, we do got, it's starting to bend out over here, but I think if I just had a little bit more of a, I think the problem is really that this thing is so old that it started to flare out. It's not at a 90 anymore, so I pulled so many seals, I kind of straightened it out so it doesn't get a good bite to start with. But this thing's definitely going to come out of here, and we're going to replace it. It's just a matter of how many attempts it will take. Although I do have a different seal puller from Japan. I've never tried it. It's the same style, but the tip is a little bit wider. I might go grab it and try it for the first time on this hinge right here. The AC compressor's in the way. Without AC, these things are a lot more accessible. Not wanting to do. There's just not enough lip there to really grab on. Swear, a stupid little kickstand. There's my pinky. Going around the corner like this thing, I mean, no seal left to grab. Jeez Louise. It's not my day on this. Let's see if we can put some pressure on the end of this. Nope. Come on now, grab that lip. It wants to come, but it's just not grabbing. There's my finger again. And we have boogered that seal up nice and good now. Yeah, I would run self tappers in there, but man, this thing is, it is tiny. There is not, man, that's my pointer finger. This thing is very, very small. I mean, here's the new one for reference. It is there's not much meat there to put a screw on without possibly nicking the crank or the outer edge where the oil pump is. I don't want to gouge either of them up, but all this going in and pulling and popping ain't great either. I'm just got to be very careful not to turn sideways or whatever and Nick that crankshaft. It just does not want to come out and play out. Jeez. This side has started to pull up. It's just, it doesn't want to grab. It's just that tip is, the focus is flared out. It's not at a 90, so it's not getting a good bite. It's kind of just pushing in when I pull back on it. So let me go grab that other seal puller I got. It's got a brand new tip on it. Maybe it'll work better. I normally spend this kind of time on the water pump, not the freaking crank seal, but yeah, there's the brand new one. You see how it's more of a 90, actually got a little bit bend in, and that other one's kind of flattened out. Maybe this one will actually have enough of a grab to get that thing to come out of there. This one's got this stupid little spring-loaded kickstand, but you can't get it out of the way. And I can get it down here. And then you don't have anything to brace against either. So. Oh, the end's not even tight. Jesus, I haven't even used this thing. I got it out of the box and threw it in the toolbox and never even tried it. Although it's got a better bite, and yeah, look there. That's what it is. I need to put a new freaking end on that Lyle seal puller. I've had it for like 15 years, and I think I finally wore the tip out. It didn't break, but it's been enough where it won't grab the seal. So that's it. Look at there, a good seal puller with a new tip on the end, and they grabbed it right away and pulled it. So there is still one. Be a pain. Come on, you joker. Come out there. There we go. Jesus, yeah. Yeah, you can see this one's just as brittle and cracking up and stuff too, so. Luckily though, it hadn't started leaking. But we'll go ahead and get all this cleaned up. And there are new seal in there. And luckily, in all that, the main goal was we did not scratch the edge of the crankshaft up here. And that was the main goal. We got it out. We didn't cause any damage other than old seal and my fingertips and a little chunk of skin off my pinky. So again, yeah, here's the new crank seal, TikTok 806-731-1070. And for you guys on YouTube, there is the crank seal for this engine. Of course, I've got the correct replacement seal. I've only done about 10 of these things. And Subaru doesn't make it hard to get the parts, even for these 25-year-old imported vehicles. Nissan, on the other hand, yeah, they're a pain in the dick to deal with, aren't they? Get that lubed up. Whoop. Spin it on there, get that lip started. And now to remember which install tool I use to drive these on. Is it this one? Or is it this one? I'll get the first one. Now where'd I put my hammer? There's my hammer. Maybe it was the bigger one. Yeah, it's the bigger one. This one touches the end of the crankshaft. That's why. That's the one. There we go. A little bit proud at the bottom. Get a little proud over here on this corner. And I think we are square all the way around now. A little more right down there. I need to find the exact freaking diameter of this crankshaft, because I got one that's a little too big and I got one that's a little too small. I'm going to get caught on the edge here. It's not the exact size for this seal. I've got exact ones for the EJ and F series for the rear main and front main and cam seals and all that. They're super easy. They're actually they're made like this, but they have a hole in the back, and you just literally set them over the end of the camshaft or the crankshaft and put your crank or cam bolt in and tighten it, and it presses it perfectly, exactly where it needs to be. No muss, no fuss, completely square. I need to find a set for these engines or have someone machine them up. That would be great to have. Or even if they could 3D print it. I don't have a 3D printer, but I'm assuming that plastic 3D printed material would be able to withstand just tightening down a bolt in the back of it and pressing a seal in. I don't see why that'd be such a tall order. So I think we're good. Go ahead and put our water pump back on. Actually, I always second guess myself on any kind of crank or cam seal or axle seal, making sure it's dead on flat, especially when I don't have the exact right size of install tool. Still feels a little proud in this bottom corner, but I don't know, I'm not getting on it or something. Having the camera in the way makes it a little hard to swing the hammer. All right, that feels much better. Yep, that is smooth, that is straight, that works for me. So water pump is Subaru part number 2111KA293. Again, same stuff on the truck. On my full videos on this step-by-step, my YouTube videos, you know, with all the torque specifications and better editing than this live stream, all the part numbers are listed in either the video or the description of the video, or both. But so brand new shiny Subaru water pump ready to go. Where's my gasket? There's the gasket. 21114KA040. How's my day going? It's been better. Although it's going a little better today than it has the rest of the week. So we'll get that new seal set in there and then precariously slap it on the engine block. This is what I was talking about, how it's difficult to get this seal in here. There's literally just tiny little nipples every so often. I really wish there was a detent on the corners to hold this seal in here a little bit better for when you get ready to put it up against the block, because it falls out of there really easily. It's hard to eyeball it, and you know, I just don't want it to get pinched and misaligned when I go to put it back together. So I normally go to the back of the engine or the back of the vehicle and try to eyeball it from the side as I slide it on the alignment dowels. Now that I said alignment dowels, I need to remember to give them a little brush, because a lot of times they get the corrosion on them, because again, steel alignment dowel and aluminum water pump, Those dissimilar metals like to get corrosion between them and stick and cause issues when you go to slide it back on there. And a lot of times it'll hang up, and then you want to go force it on there, and when it does, it jolts that new seal, the new gasket, and it doesn't stay in place. So one more final wipe, all that, and we'll stick this water pump in there and see if I can remember where the water pump bolts are. Here they are. All right, let's get this water pump on and get the timing belt on. So, sorry if I smack you at TikTok. I'm trying to do a reach around here with this and make sure that the gasket doesn't come off of there. As I align all of this and slide it up here. February 1st, 2022. Dang, I didn't realize this water pump was that old. Thought I'd bought water pumps since then, but apparently not. So. Here's what I'm talking about. That bottom dowel slid right on there, and this top one's being a pain in the butt. It doesn't want to slide on. I know if I smack it on there, the freaking gasket's going to jump out of the groove. See if I know the bottom dowel is not top dowel went on. Problem with these things too, a lot of times when you go to pry them off of there, the little dowel will get cocked sideways, and then if you don't have them both perfectly straight, you can't get the water pump to slide down on there. Alright, gasket's still in place. I think there's just too much corrosion and crap on that upper alignment dowel still, so see if that's a little bit better now. This one looks like it's fine. See if the water pump will slide on there now. Let's see what I'm doing right now. Pretty confident my gasket didn't move, but I don't know if I want to gamble with it. Let's pull it back a little bit and just make sure that the seal's in place still. Oh, with me truck, van, whatever you are. This upper dowel still at the bottom. That bottom dowel is nice and smooth. That's why a lot of times I like when these dowels pop out with the water pump, because I can just hammer them out of the old water pump and take them over to the bench grinder with the wire wheel in it and clean them up really, really nice, and then don't have an issue putting them back in. So yeah, that gasket came back off of there. Let's try one more time to see the corrosion right here. One more try. Let's see if we can get it to go on there smooth. Once you get the water pump on there, it's pretty quick to go back together. Other than putting the new thermostat in, it's kind of a pain. All right. Enough messing around. It's still going on there. Gasket's not moving. Let's just get this thing done. All right, good. Jesus Christ. Damn gasket did pop off. I swear these things are such a fucking pain in the ass. I can see it right there through the bolt hole. I don't know why they couldn't have put a better detent in the groove on the water pump to hold this freaking gasket in place when you're trying to put it on there. Especially with the way the freaking dowel pins are. Work on that dowel pin a little bit more. That is definitely the one that's hanging it up. That's where I never have problems getting them on there. It's always getting them to freaking come off. This one's just being a pain in the ass. Unless it's popped out some. Didn't stay in place that time. Well, I don't see it through the freaking bolt hole, so and it slid on there pretty smooth. So I'm assuming we're good. I guess if it leaks, it was not good. So remember, always the two long bolts go to the top here. The water pump goes to the coolant crossover pipe back around into the thermostat. Buddy, just so you know, everybody has been unblocked, other than a handful of people. How do you like those mini trucks? I absolutely love them. I've had two of the trucks. This is the van, and the van is super cool. This is the first van I've had. I've worked on my two trucks and a ton of customer trucks, but this is the first van. I've still yet to see one of the supercharged ones in person. If I buy another truck, which I'm looking for another truck, not actively looking, it's just if I come across one at a good price, I'll pick one up. But I'm looking for a supercharged air-conditioned truck, and they're super hard to find. A lot of the supercharged air-conditioned were vans, and not a lot of people sprung for the supercharger in the truck. So again, these are a 658cc engine. It makes 40 horsepower and 40 foot-pounds of torque. They were carbureted up till 1997 model year, and 97, this one is a 97. It was the first year of the electronic fuel injection on the naturally aspirated. The supercharged ones did have fuel injection prior. And if I remember right, the supercharged version of the truck makes like 55 or 58 horsepower, and I think 55 foot-pounds of torque. Just don't buy a GMC. What's wrong with GMC? I got two Duramaxes. One's a GMC and one's a Chevrolet. I got a LLY and a L5P. But yeah, I love these little trucks. They're super great. They're super useful. They've got like a 6.5 foot bed, I think, with the tailgate up, and I think it's like 4.5 foot wide. But you can set the you can fold the bed sides down and the tailgate, of course. There's chains, and you can take them off like a Jeep door. They're just on a little swing hinge, and you can make them a full flatbed. You can get them with a dump bed. You can get them with a scissor lift under the bed. Like, there's all kinds of configurations. They're super handy. Like, I would run to Home Depot and grab, you know, any kind of sheep goods, 4x8. You can fit OSB 4x8s in the back of the Sambar. You just have to let the tailgate down and you know, throw a strap over the back corner. But it's not that big of a overhang, honestly. I have a picture somewhere, I think on Instagram, years ago, of me at Home Depot with like 8 sheets of OSB in the bed of my Sambar truck, parked beside a crew cab, 4-wheel drive, 3500 HD Duramax. You know, just the hilarity of it. These trucks will actually fit in an 8-foot truck bed with the tailgate down. So like, I could put my Sambar truck in the bed of my 2018 3500 HD with the tailgate down. The back tires would sit on the tailgate, but it will fit in an 8-foot bed. That's how much smaller they are than a regular one. You have to change the O-rings on that. O-rings on what? Where's my torque wrench? Torque specs on the water pump are 16.7 Newton meters. We'll call it 17. Close enough. So I'll go in here and fight to get the freaking torque wrench in here because how compact these little bogers are. Now, I think he's bringing me new side seals for the water pump, so I'm likely going to just go ahead and put the new side seals in there, as we're a little bit messed up. So 16.7 and 17 Newton meters, close enough for the water pump bolts. Need to clean up the rear timing belt cover here. It does have quite a bit of oil in it, and you can see where the oil was running down from that leaking cam seal. Also where the back of that rocker cover gasket, or the rocker cover meets at the back of this, it was running down. So I'm gonna shoot that with some brake parts cleaner real quick and wipe it with a rag and get it back on there, and then we can get that cam sprocket on. And actually, probably before we get too deep into this, we should probably go ahead and pull that thermostat out, because it's a pain in the butt. This back up here, y'all really can't see it, and y'all on YouTube really can't see it, but most of you on YouTube have already watched my other Sambar videos and know that the thermostat is really weird placed and out of the way and hard to get at. So actually, I think I did a TikTok video on using Subaru Snap-on speed wrenches to get the bolts out of the thermostat on these, because they're so aggravating to access. Look, I'm not gonna block you for saying it, but at this point, we have talked, we have buried the hatchet, everything is cool. It would be nice if you guys would drop it and move on with life, but as you that want to keep harping on, I guess you can keep harping on it. So, rear timing cover is cleaned up, shined up, degreased. We'll throw that back here and throw our 3 10mm bolts in it. I need to find my cam pulley holding tool. I can't remember if I brought it out here or not. Need to grab those side seals too. I'm pretty sure I can slide them in after the fact, but with that bottom corner one, you kind of gotta put it in as you put the timing cover in because it's quite tight. So side seals are where? Should be in this big box of parts over here. Empty bag, and there's a side seal, there's a side seal. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so one of our side seals is Subaru 13552KA032. One is 13547KA001. One is 13587KA053. And the last one is 13541KA001. So every single one of them is different. They all have one particular spot that they can go, so there's no mixing them up. So the funky C-shaped looking one goes right here. Let's push it into the slots. Like so. The next one is, I believe it's this little tiny one. I think it's the one that goes above that. No, this one goes over here beside the time belt cover. Slides in like so. The next seal is the one that goes above. It'll come out of the bag, which it is this one here, and it slides in that way till flush. Get in there all the way. And the last one is this funky looking L-shaped one, and it goes down around the corner here. And this is the one that's a weirdo one. Got a little tab at the back there that goes in. This is the one that goes behind the time belt tensioner. Slide that in all the way, put it in the groove. Even when they're brand new, they kind of seem a little too long and want to buckle, but it's all good. And then we'll tighten up our 3 bolts. Is that Mr. Subaru's car that he's working on? I hope not. Never seen a Subaru Tech or even a Subaru. Guy run a Napa filter on their Subaru. This is a customer's van. They drove 3 hours to bring it to me, and I did not put that filter on it. I've got a Subaru genuine Tokyo Roki filter to put on it when we change the oil after we do the rest of the services. Of course, that's not going to reach from there. Power tools make life great until you can't access what you need to do with the power tool and have to use a manual tool, and then you just feel like you've gone back to the Stone Age. It's so easy to line something up and push a button compared to getting the old wrench or ratchet out. So got that on there. We can pop the cam pulley sprocket back on there, and time belt tensioner and the crank sprocket. I need to clean those up. Timing belt, and basically done under here. Can button back up. Probably gonna do the rocker cover gasket off camera just to get wrapped up, because I think we've been live here for, I don't know, an hour or two. 80 minutes, 81 minutes looks like on YouTube, but I did start the YouTube live before the TikTok live would kick off. Had some internet issues getting connected. So we'll clean up the crank sprocket. And slide it back into place. And we'll clean up the cam sprocket. Yep, that's the wrong crank sprocket. It magically changed from the time I took it off 30 minutes ago to a different one. You missed your chance to make seal jokes because the seals have already been replaced. I'm gonna get the dirt and crap and buildup out of this cam sprocket. It is super dirty. Not that it matters to clean it up, but I'd rather know what's going back together clean after the time of service. Honestly, we don't have to get the thermostat until we get all this back together, so we'll probably just wait and leave it to last anyway. All right, it's clean enough. And torque spec for the cam sprocket bolts. Cam sprocket is 11.7 Newton meters, so 12 Newton meters it will be. And I think I've got the right size socket to get past the holding tool. Although honestly, I don't think you need the holding tool for this. It's so low a torque, you can pretty much just hold it and torque to 12 Newton meters. It's not a ton of torque. So, go ahead and run the screws, bolts back in. So honestly, this hasn't been terrible. I thought it'd be a little bit more aggravating. There's still plenty of accessibility for this engine in the van compared to the truck, but you just get way more easy access with the truck when you take the bed sides off and take the engine cover off from the bed of the truck, and you get all over this thing. So 12 Newton meters. See if we can hold it. Yeah, we can hold it. I don't need the holding tool. And one more check. We'll use the holding tool after all. Mark, and we're good there. So we need to get our new belt tensioner and belt out. A lot of empty bags. There's a new belt tensioner. It is Subaru 1307 KA120. It's a Koyo bearing. Yep, Koyo bearing, same as the seal. The infamous seal was a Koyo, made in Japan. This is not a boxer engine. This is an inline 4-cylinder. This is a Clover 4 EN07 658cc engine. The K vehicles from Subaru did not have boxer engines. All right, so we loop our timing belt tensioner spring through the hole in the rear timing belt cover. We align that tab there. And we push up against the spring tension and wreck our finger to get our bolt in and started. Of course, it's always a pain in the ass to get these freaking tensioners in here. It'd be nice if they had a hydraulic tensioner, but this being a manual spring load tensioner, it's not that terrible. Get the bolt started and then we'll get the freaking dowel lined up. Jeez, Louise, get in there. Alright. And of course our spring came out. The spring back in the timing cover and tensioner back on the peg. So we're just going to tighten the bolt up, and we have to push the tensioner all the way to the top against the spring pressure, tighten the bolt, and then we can put our belt on, and then we let that loose and let the spring put tension on the belt, and we're pretty much good for tensioning that. So use a wrench to push up on the tensioner arm, hold it all the way next, and tighten up the tensioner bolt to hold it in place. Just like so. And grab our timing belt, which is a 13160 KA160. We have so much film between renovating 2 houses, land clearing, business, customer cars. What are we talking about? All right, new timing belt, oddly enough, comes wrapped in bubble wrap from Japan, and install instructions, of course, in Japanese, and our new sticker for our date and mileage of our service we're going to put on the timing belt cover so they can keep track of the last service. And there is our belt and timing marks. Let's see, that should be the cam, and that should be the crank. Let's get her in here. Really easy timing belt compared to the old EJs. A lot less cogs and bobs and odds and ends to line up. So we're lined up on the crank, around the water pump, tensioner. Let's check our cam mark, and should be good. Yeah, these water pumps are super freaking bling bling when they're new. Just being raw cast aluminum. Does this look funny back here? This might be a different timing belt for these, because these don't have a mark. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Cam is off here. Pull the belt back off real quick and move this cam pulley. Had the Joker 180 out. Luckily this is a non-interference engine, so we can just turn the cam around and put it where it needs to be. These cam pulleys are a little bit different than the earlier ones. They've got 2 marks on them. There we go. Now we're all lined up. Get around the tensioner. Come on. There we go. All right, cam's lined up, notches lined up, mark on the belt's lined up. And then all we do is loosen this up. Pow, spring applies the correct tension to the belt. You can crank the engine over 2 revolutions. You don't have to. Should be fine to go ahead and just torque the bolt. That spring tension on. The spring puts the constant tension on the belt anyway. I've even seen, I think it was the last Sambar truck I got in for a time belt job, where this tensioner was locked all the way in the upright position and the belt was just floppy loose at the bottom, and somehow it ran. The guy drove it here, did not jump time and didn't blow the engine up. So that whole rotating engine 2 times, you don't really have to do with this style of tensioner, with it being a constant tension from that spring. So we loosened it up, the spring tensioned it. We got to tighten it back down now, and then we torque it down to, let's see, the tensioner bolt is 24.5 Newton meters, so 25 Newton meters it is. Newton meters is set, and need a shallow socket. Well, in the past, I think I've used a torque adapter to get in there. It's really, really tight. Maybe I can get it. Maybe I can't. It's been a while. I can't remember. Thought I got my ratchet on here. And the torque wrench on here. There we go. All right, 25 Newton meters. And set. And double check. And good. Alright, everything's lined up, everything's torque to specification, water pump's good, tensioner's good, new belt's on, new side seal's on. We're good to put our covers on, button this thing up. So again, you see that little bit of oil and coolant that's been leaking. We're going to go ahead and pull this old seal. We've got a new one for it. The guys, customers bring us a new seal anyway, so we're going to go ahead and do that for them. Let's get a little bit of our brake parts cleaner, wherever we put the brake parts can, or brake cleaner. Sure Shot can. I just did a video on not too long ago here. Absolutely love these Sure Shot cans, and great for your brake fluid, or I keep saying brake fluid, brake parts cleaner. I use brake parts cleaner basically to clean everything. So we'll go ahead and get this timing belt cover cleaned up. We gotta find our old dipstick, because I gotta put our dipstick and our tube back in there. And put our new seal around our time belt cover. And I think the lower cover goes on before the outer cover, or upper cover on these. Kind of like the EJs, you gotta put the center cover in before you put the outside 2 covers on. So just getting all the dirt and crap off the cover. Make it look presentable again. Make it look like we went in there and serviced it and cleaned it up and did things right, instead of putting dirty parts back on. Although this van is fairly clean anyway. And again, it's only got like 35,000 kilometers, which is like 18,000, 20,000 miles, something like that. Can't remember my kilometer to mile conversion off the top of my head. I think it's normally around half. How am I doing? I have been doing better, but still above ground and still breathing, so can't complain too bad, right? Here's the new time belt cover seal. It is 13597KA031. It's just a little rolled up piece of silicone, basically. You just go around the outside of the cover and put it in the groove. Nope, I don't have to measure a single thing on these. I've done so many of them. I got every single part number correct. No worries there, buddy. I'm just pressing the seal back in the edge of the cover, working it on around. Until we get to the end. And I think we have to trim it. I think they usually give it to you just a hair long. And it is. I don't have any snips with me, but I'll take my pocket knife and clip it off. I'll give you just a little bit extra there. So take the pocket knife and trim it down, and we can stick her back up there. I do want to clean the bottom of that oil pump. That looks bad right there. See if we can't make that look a little bit better. Where's my brush? There it is. Bad thing about doing a rear main seal on these EN07s, you can't just drop the transmission and pull the old seal out and put the new seal in. Like I was saying earlier, and having to order them from Japan, is that you've got to take the oil pan off, and you've got to take the rear cap off for the crankshaft, because of those two little stupid side seals on either side of the rear main seal in that main bearing cap. So you got to take the main bearing cap off at the very back of the crankshaft. You got to take the oil pan off, reseal the oil pan, and drop the freaking transmission. So it's kind of a daggum pain to put a rear main seal in these little trucks. Otherwise, they're pretty daggum easy to work on. I mean, this time belt, all you have to do is, as you see, jack the back of the truck up, take the wheel off. There's a splash shield in here you take off. Take your belt off for your alternator and your AC compressor, and you take the rear shock absorber out that goes across here, and then you're right here at the front of the engine to get to the time belt, water pump, all that mess. All right, it's not going to look brand new, but it's better than it was. So go ahead and get our timing belt cover. Slide it into place. And grab the bolts. And drop the bolts. And where did the bolt drop we literally just had in our hand? There it is. Where the jack stand. Now, I can't remember which bolt it is. I think it's this one that doubles to hold the old dipstick in, or maybe it's this one. I can't remember. I need to get the dipstick, figure out where I put it. Need to go fish out my crank pulley holding tool too, so we can crank this or torque this crank bolt in place in a minute. Another tool I had to import from Japan because they don't sell it in the U.S. market, because these aren't a U.S. market vehicle and it's specifically for these vehicles. So, where's my impact? Where's my little impact driver? All right, good there. And Common to have cam tower leaks on the BRZ's FA20. Yeah, the cam carriers are pretty bad to leak on all of the F-Series engines, whether it's the FA20 or the FB25 or FB20 or whatever. They do have a issue with them leaking, and it's a pain in the ass to deal with because you cannot do a cam carrier reseal with the engine in the car. You do have to pull the engine. The F-Series engine is just a pain in the ass no matter what, just because of all the RTV silicone and the oil leaks from that huge front timing chain cover, from the cam carriers, from the cam covers, and not really from the head gaskets. It's not really a head gasket issue, but Jesus, at the time you pull the engine and do the front timing chain cover and the cam carriers and the cam covers, you might as well have pulled the freaking heads and done the head gaskets. And the upper oil pan gasket, the O-rings and the upper oil pans are notorious for leaking on them too. So a lot of people think they've got a head gasket blown in their F-Series engine, even though, you know, the head gasket issues were really fixed in the EJ series. The FAs and FBs don't really have head gasket issues, but there is issue with coolant and water cross contamination, or coolant and oil cross contamination, due to those upper oil pan O-rings leaking, because the oil pan is two pieces on the F-Series. It kind of acts like you know, the water pump is mounted into it, so you've got coolant in the upper oil pan separate from the oil, and there's like two, three, I think it's three O-rings, 2 or 3 O-rings in the upper oil pan that have to separate. When they start leaking, you know, then you can get cross-contamination there, or when the PCV union starts leaking, you can get cross-contamination there. And there's 3 places where you can get cross-contamination. It's the upper oil pan O-rings, the PCV union, and God, what's the other one? I did a whole YouTube video on this, the 3 main areas to look for when you get oil in your coolant on a F-Series. But yeah, again, as hard as it is to change those freaking O-rings, like, you might as well have done a head gasket job anyway, because you got to pull the engine again, you got to pull the timing chain cover just to get the daggum upper oil pan, lower oil pan, all that off to get those O-rings. So it's a really involved job. You cannot do it with the engine in the car, as far as I recollect. I don't think you can, because I think the engine mounts go through the upper oil pan at the back. Yeah, the 2 bottom 14 mil studs where it goes in the transmission are mounted in that upper oil pan. So yeah, you can't do it. You have to pull it out of the you have to pull the engine out of the car. Sorry guys, I'm trying to work. I'm trying to look at the chat both on YouTube and TikTok, but I'm mainly focused on getting this done. So if I miss you, I'm sorry. If I do talk about your question, you know, I just happened to catch it looking up. I saw something, had a 97 Legacy, had no problems for years, got a 09 Forester XT, now has nothing but issues. Yeah, I mean, if you're a 97 Legacy, it depends on what you had. Was it an EJ22? I'm betting it's an EJ22 if you had no issues, because the EJ22E was the engine I had my 94 Legacy wagon, and I had not an issue out of it. It's got 320,000 miles on it now, and I think, and it has never been opened up, never been resealed head gasket wise. But the head gaskets were never an issue on the EJ22s, because they had that composite, the composite head gasket instead of that, what do you call it? It's like that, I can't remember what they call it now, but it was a 1-piece solid molded head gasket, whereas the issue with all the single overhead cam EJs and the EJ25D dual overhead cam NA engine and all the rest was due to that single layer steel gasket that had the coating, the graphite coating on the outside, and that graphite coating was the one that failed. But the 22s and I think the 20s had that different gasket that didn't have that issue, and they never had head gasket issues. It's so crazy how Subaru has got painted as, you know, always having head gasket issues, when the turbocharged engines, the EJ255s and 257s, and the 255, 257s, 205, 207, the 2-liter and the 2.5 EJ turbo engines, they never had head gasket issues as a rule. The only time they had head gasket issues is when you modified the hell out of them and cranked the boost up and would like lift the head or whatever. But normally they didn't have a head gasket issue. And then the EJ18s didn't have head gasket issues. The EJ20s didn't have head gasket issues. The EJ25s and the 22s didn't have issues. The EG33, the EZ30, the EZ36, the ER27, all of those series of engines did not have head gasket issues. The single issue with head gaskets on Subarus was only the EJ25 in the EJ25D, EJ251, EJ253 for the naturally aspirated 2.5 EJ series engine. And that was their most prevalent engine, of course, in the vehicles they sold. So of course it got blown out as like this epidemic of head gasket issues on Subarus and became the stigma that it is today with, you know, head gasket issues. It's crazy how many people gripe on the head gasket issues when it was literally only one engine affected by it, and all the rest was fine. It was just that one engine, but of course, being it was its most popular engine, it became the issue and became synonymous. So, get these last couple of bolts in here for the upper time belt cover, and we can torque our crank pulley bolt. I think it is 108 Newton meters. Put our serpentine belt on, and then all I got to do is do the thermostat and refill the coolant. But before I do all that, I'm probably going to go ahead and pull the rocker cover off and do the reseal on it. That way I can bleed the coolant system, get it at the temperature one time, and go ahead and change the oil with it hot and knock it all out at one time. So probably going to end the live very soon, as soon as I get these last couple of time belt bolts in here and crank this one for the belt on, and I'll wrap it up off camera. But I do appreciate everybody for coming and hanging out and watching the live stream, and those of you that have been watching and liking and all the stuff. It's the first time I've done a live stream on TikTok, so I don't know how it works exactly. I've done several on YouTube, but yeah. So go ahead and get these tightened down. Again, where'd the 10 millimeter go? There it is. Get on there. All right. And all good. So now we gotta do is torque this bad boy, 108 Newton meters. Get torque wrench fired up. Pretty sure my 3/8 goes to 108. Although I don't have a 17 millimeter socket for crank bolt on hand, I don't think, out here. And nope, I need to go grab a 17. And I need to go grab that holding tool. But yeah, we're basically done, other than throwing this old serpentine belt back on there. Probably need to go get him a new serpentine belt. Luckily it's a Bondo belt. We got the part number, so it's not hard to match up. There's probably one that came on the truck from Japan, hasn't been swapped out. And of course, I just realized I forgot to put my new time belt date stamp sticker on the frickin' timing cover. I always do that, so I'm gonna have to stick it on there and write while it's on the engine. So whatever. So guys, I think that'll do it. I think both my phones are down at this point. We've been on here for 110 minutes on YouTube, and I don't know if TikTok tells me how long I've been live streaming for. hope so. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna call it a day for the live stream. Thank y'all for hanging out and watching, and liking, commenting, all that good stuff. So thank you, guys, and I will see y'all when I see you. So now if I can figure out how to end the live stream, because I don't know how to do this. I think that's the button. And adios, YouTube. Damn, they've changed all the buttons since I've done a live stream last time. I think it's this one.